I am still planning to use the router by way of cutting all of the mortise and tenon joints. That's the setup at the moment, with two 10mm cutters on an 8mm arbor. That very nicely cuts the thickness of the tenon. What I want, so that everything can remain steady, is to be able to then just, rather than run the wood along the face edge, run it along the face, along the face side, run it along the face edge, rather than turning it over and running it on a surface that I can't guarantee is true, although usually they are. I want to try and just stick to the face side and the face edge by way of reference points. So I can do that with cutting the thickness of the tenon, but if I'm going to run it through on the face edge, I need another set of cutters for one pass, single pass, that way. The problem I have at the moment, this is about the biggest arbor that Wealden Tools do, and it won't allow me a sufficient gap. I need 30mm between the two cutters. They are looking into making me a special edition of an arbor, so that I've got at least 60mm from this bottom edge up to the top of the thread. 10mm thread, that would allow me then 50mm inside, 30mm each side, because these two cutters are 10mm. So that's what I'm looking at the moment. A separate arbor with two separate cutters, and then I can just leave these as they are set for the repeat cuts. So that's where I am at the moment. But I'm also looking at using the cutter fence, if I can see, there it is. I want to use this T-track for this mitre fence. That will give me a parallel cut like that, holding the workpiece here. Everything will be square to the cutter. But one thing I've realised, the fence for the router table, that was not square. Probably the way that I made it in the first place, but that and that are not square. That poses a problem, because it means that if I'm relying on that position being square, it isn't. You can probably see at the top here there's maybe a 4mm gap, and at this end it's even more, it's more like 6 or 7mm gap. So I'm looking at making, I know it's not long since I've done it, but making a new fence for this table and using better wood, and being able to guarantee that everything is square. So the first thing to do, and this is heavy, it's a piece of beech that I was given many years ago. what must be 10, 12 years ago now. Now the nice thing about this piece, it is, because it's beech, it's solid, it's not going to move. Now it's 900 long, it's 230 deep, and it's 90 millimeters thick. I don't know whether you can pick this up or not, but that's been slab cut. So the rings are very nicely spaced on there, but because of that, it has bowed a little. That has got a concave, a convex. That side is a concave surface. So what I thought, if I square this off, cut it down the middle, that will give me 45 millimeters thick piece of timber that just will not move. I can use that for the fence side, I can use the rest of it for everything that goes behind, and again, that is not going to move. If I can get this absolutely square to the table, then I can guarantee then that everything that I make will be square. There won't be any deviation. So that's what I'm going to do now. So, as I mentioned last time on the last segment, this is the piece of beech that I'm working with. I'm going to be using half of its thickness for the router table fence, but to cut the thickness, this is too wide. This is 230 millimeters. I'm limited on the bandsaw to 150 really as a working depth. So what I'm going to do is mark 150 from this edge. This is the face edge. 150, and literally cut the whole piece in half. Then I'll be able to cut both slabs in half that way on the bandsaw. Then I can join everything together, and it should be as strong, well, almost as strong as it is now. It's not going to need much load bearing, but it will mean I will have the full height of 230 millimeters. Power. It's a case of cutting down the beech to the required thickness. Decided that the face of the fence is going to be 35 millimeters thick. That will give me plenty of weight to the fence. It won't bend with it being beech. It's going to give me plenty of thickness so that I can put the T-track in for the featherboards, and it's going to be deep enough as well, or thick enough, so that I can put a smaller T-track in here for gauges to stop movement forward and back. That's going to be an extra addition to this. So that's what we're going to do now. say I'm very, very impressed with this brand new blade from Axminster, one of their Excalibur range. High carbon steel, but I can't believe the speed that I cut through that with such a nice finish, really, for a 3 teeth to the inch blade. Really, really impressed with that. So that's cut that. All I've got to do now is the big piece. And so I'm guessing that will be the face edge and face side. No. That's definitely that's the side we want. Move back up, because if you remember from the last episode, this was 230mm thick. It definitely will not go through the bandsaw, but we cut it down to 150-ish millimetres, and we're all ready. And again, what a lovely finish. So those are the two main pieces that are going to form the fence. So that's the face side that I'll work against with work pieces. The smaller piece will go on top, jointed, and then what I'm going to do is cut these down smaller so that I can use these for all of the back pieces. That way everything is going to be nice and square. So the next thing that I need to be doing is using the planer just to tidy up that cut edge that you just saw me make, and then I can put it back through the bandsaw with a nice tidy face edge and face side. So just get this all ready. What I'm having as the face edge, so that's going to go against the fence, of course. Like that, and then that'll just tidy that other edge up. So as good as finish of that bandsaw blade is, obviously it's not perfectly square, so that's going to take 1 or 2 half-millimetre passes just to take those rough bits off. That's a very nice piece of timber, if I do say so myself. So just make sure I label it as face edge, face side. I do get those two mixed up. And do the second piece. Okay, so I've marked the face edge and face side of these two pieces now. I've decided this is 40mm thick, so all I'm going to do is take it straight down the middle, and that will give me roughly 19.5mm thick pieces. 3/4 of an inch. That's a nice thickness for what's going behind the fence. I've set the fence for the bandsaw. Let me just lock everything off so that won't move. that went through very nicely. And that's a very nice cut. Just a little bit of a kink there, but again, I can work around that. Next step, so this is going to be the front of the fence and the two pieces of wood. I'm just going to make sure that everything is nice and square, so I'm going to run that bit through the planer as well, and then I'm going to biscuit joint these together. That way I will have one solid piece, and then I'll put it through the thicknesser just to make sure that there are no odd sides and odd edges to catch anything. Okay, so I've cleaned up the edge, and that's the face edge that I'm going to be working with. Now this piece is 900mm long, and we don't need to be really accurate about this. I've just made sure I've got 6 biscuits in there, and just judged it by eye to see how they look, to see they're roughly equal. And what I'm going to do is have 2 biscuits, so 12 in all, so that nothing will move. That's the rough position I'm going to put them in. All I'm going to do now is, there we go, just roughly mark where these are going. That's that. I've already got the cutter in the router. Now this, again, like most of my cutters, have come from Weldon Tools. Apart from cleaning, this cutter never leaves this arbor, so I know they're always going to be working. It comes with a bearing roller, and what I really want is just to check roughly where things are going to go. Like that, like that. That looks about equal. So just take the cutter down till it's roughly in the right place. Lock that off. Move the biscuits out of the way. Ears. And that's got those nicely. Little bits of oil, that will clean up the top. Okay. A little bit dusty, but for this it's quite difficult to have the dust extraction on. That's that. So that will be like that. Those cuts line up. That's fine. Now just reposition the cutter for the second pass. There we go. And off we go. There we go. So that will be like that. Now I've just got to glue everything up. If you remember from one of the previous episodes, when it comes to putting biscuits in, the tip is never to put glue in the slots. That way timber can move because of expansion and contraction, and because those are going to be loose, they will stop everything moving side to side but not widthwise, and so things won't become distorted. You can have too much glue. If you have too much glue, you end up just wasting it because it all squeezes out. But I do like to have plenty in for something to grip. Now I'm not quite sure how long I've had this piece of timber in. It's been indoors for quite a few years, so it is quite dry, which is why this glue is soaking in quite a lot. Okay. Just pop the bit, and one thing you're probably noticing, these are quite tight. Again, these biscuits have been in stock for quite a few years, and although they're in an airtight tin or box, they are kept outdoors in this shed, so that's going to encourage them to absorb moisture. So let's just tap them home from the right side. Yep. now see I have a nice glue bead, so just finish tightening those up, making sure. The nice thing about these cramps is that those legs provide a very nice flat level, but all I've got to do is make sure that the back of the piece is aligned with the fence, and that means that will be nice and square. That's not going to bow one little bit. So next thing to do, while the fence is actually gluing up, decide what pieces I'm going to be using where. So these are the pieces that I cut down earlier this afternoon, and one of these will form the base. The smaller pieces can be used for these braces, and I'll be wanting something for the airbox as well. So all I've got to do is put those through the thicknesser to make sure they're all the same thickness, and just to tidy up the cut, because although that's quite a nice cut, it is relatively rough by comparison with the face side.